Hello, my name is Max Banfield. Welcome to my talk on how I survived a cancer experiment that went wrong. As a way of introduction, I'll first tell you who I am, what type of research I've done besides this, and then I'll tell you how I was diagnosed with cancer in 1994 and why I was given only 2 months to live. I'll then tell you why I decided to do a 6-week liquid-only diet and how I made it safe. And then I'll explain how that experiment went wrong. And then I'll explain how I survived. I've done many other experiments and I'm still here 29 years later. So, who am I? Well, my name is Max Banfield. I am the inventor of the modern method of treating chronic fatigue syndrome, which other people call pacing. And nowadays, long COVID clinics use that method and they call it staying within the energy envelope. And all the related aspects, I basically developed the foundation for all of those. Without them, they wouldn't be successful. The second thing I invented was the standing computer desk. And that's now being made by many thousands of furniture companies. Simply making variations on my design. Without the fundamental design, none of them would be any value. So, now I'll discuss cancer. I'd been doing research for about almost 20 years when I was diagnosed with cancer. And it started like this. I had a blood test and a doctor said that something needs to be investigated, so we would like you to go and have an x-ray. He then said, well, there's something on the x-ray we need to investigate, so I'll send you for CAT scan. And as time went on, I was sent for a bone marrow biopsy. That's where they punch a hole in your hip, extract some of the bone marrow and examine under a microscope. And they said there's something that needs investigating. So they sent me for a biopsy. As we go to hospital and have a minor operation to remove one gland, a lymph gland, from your body and examine that under a microscope. And then I was told, we'd now like you to go and see a specialist. Now, I like to know the facts about things, so I didn't go there with the idea that I'm going to worry about it. I wanted the specialist to be frank with me, and it's rather obvious something seriously wrong. So I said to him quite frankly, I don't want you, watering down the facts. It seems I've got a problem here. What is it? And he said, you've got cancer and you've got 2 months to live with no hope of a cure. So I then asked him why he thinks I've got no hope of a cure. And he said, if you had a cancerous lump in your neck, they could chop it out, give you radiation and stop it from spreading. But he said, I've got cancer in my neck, my chest and my abdomen, and even if they chopped all the cancerous glands out, I'd still have cancer in my blood and bone marrow. And so my chance of survival was slim, and he advised me to go home and tidy up my financial affairs. Now, in plain English, that means write your will. So, that's why I was given 2 months to live. So, why did I decide to do a 6-week liquid diet several years later? Well, first of all, because I survived. And I started to develop this lump on my neck. And it's the scar there now from where they did surgery to remove it. But it was about the size of a teaspoon. That's a teaspoon. There it is. And it was there like that. And that's about the roughly the size of it. It remained at that size for maybe a year or two, perhaps longer. And I come across this person who was claiming that they could cure cancer with a liquid-only diet. Now, it obviously wasn't water only. What they had developed was this combined vegetable juice arrangement that come in a bottle about the size of a stubby beer bottle. And the idea that was presented was that you take 2 bottles of this liquid a day that contains some vital elements that needed to keep you alive, and no food, no solids. And the idea presented was the cancer will be starved to death, and you will survive, and then you'll be cured. Now, when I do research, doesn't matter who does it, I'm very sceptical. Don't believe anything I'm told by anybody. I go by results, not by, bells and whistles, fancy labels and things. So what I did was this. I thought, if those vitamins are keeping me alive, they'll probably keep the cancer alive too. So it wasn't entirely a logical argument that's been presented to me. But at the same time, I was told there's no cure from conventional methods, so I thought I had nothing to lose. And when I started, I thought, how am I going to survive for 6 weeks without food? I don't think I've ever gone any longer than a day without food, not even that long in my life. I'm going to last for 6 weeks. And I didn't know. But I decided to proceed. Why? Well, I had this lump in my neck, and it's about that big, and I could see it, and it was obvious. So I thought, if I go on this diet and that lump gets smaller, I'll stay on the diet until I'm cured. If it stays the same size, or if I start getting sick, or if it gets bigger, I'll stop the diet. So that's the basis of starting. It wasn't like I'm going to do it for any foolish reason. I had a plan on how to start it, monitor it, and survive if things went wrong. So I proceeded. Now I started off, and I think I bought a couple of bottles, 4 bottles, and I went for a couple of days without food. And to my surprise, it was easy. I didn't feel any problems. So I went out and bought another couple of bottles. And after 2 or 3 or 4 days, I was still going strong. It was easy. No food at all. I wasn't sneaking off to the fridge or anything like that. I was getting no food at all. Just these liquid bottles. 2 a day. And I was still feeling good and surprised that within a week I was still feeling okay. But the lump was the same size. So anyway, I thought, this is easy. I'll go out and I'll purchase around about $100 worth of these bottles. Might have been a bit more. And I stayed on that diet. 2 weeks went by, 3 weeks went by. I thought, that's amazing. I'm still feeling good and haven't eaten anything. Just liquid. I don't even feel any different than I've ever felt before. And so it went on then 4 weeks, and the lump was the same size. And I thought, this diet isn't working. I'm going to have to abandon it. It's a waste of time. But then I thought, well, I've been going 4 weeks. I might as well go for a complete 6 weeks and see what happens. It's easy enough. But by the 5th week, I started to feel what you might call the effects of not eating for 5 weeks. And so I knew it was the diet that was causing me to deteriorate like that. Now, one of the things I want to do is tell you what happened while I was not eating. I'm a thin person and I don't generally eat cakes and lollies and biscuits and things like that, which people who do, generally they're overweight. And I'd be going through shopping centres, and after the third or fourth week I started to notice cakes in windows and donuts and buns and biscuits. I started to feel hungry every time I saw them. And by the fifth week, every time I walked past a shop that had cakes and lollies and things, I'd want to eat them. Well, I've never been like that before. I just walked past it and it would make no difference to me. So this hunger that I was experiencing as a result of not eating solids was beginning to affect my interest in food and what types of food I was interested in. So after the fifth week, I thought this diet isn't working. The cancer lump, still the same size, hadn't changed at all. How can I show you that? Still exactly the same size, and got bigger and got smaller. So I thought I'm going to have to stop this diet because it's obviously not going to work, and I'm obviously starting to deteriorate in my health. So there's a problem. One of the pieces of advice that come with this diet is this. When you're denying yourself food for many weeks, your stomach stops digesting food properly. So if you go to the shop and suddenly start eating a normal meal again, you're likely to get severe negative results like feels like food poisoning. Your body is not going to be able to digest that food. So I thought, I'm going to have to start eating again. This experiment is a dud. It's a waste of time. It was a waste of money. So I went to a shop. It was a cake shop. And I bought half a dozen rolls and buns. And I thought I must eat these slowly, one at a time. Good in theory, but I was so hungry. It's a good idea, but I was so hungry that I just ate 4 or 5 of them. And I think that's what started me on a downhill track. But I also had a cup of coffee and some milk and some minor other foods. And within an hour or so, I started getting nausea and I was vomiting violently. And it was the closest thing I can way to describe it as food poisoning. That's the way it felt. Nausea, vomiting, constantly dry reaching, and this went on for a week. And I come that close to carking it. I was so exhausted, but then the food poisoning passed and I started eating normally again. And obviously I went on and survived. So the point is this, I went for 6 weeks. The only food I had was a few buns in the 5th week, and I vomited all that up within a couple of hours. So I had no food at all for 6 weeks, just liquid, this liquid concoction of vegetable juices. So that was the experiment. It sounded like it was worth trying. I didn't think it'd succeed. I had no other reason not to try it. It was relatively easy until the 5th week when I got so hungry I ate a lot of food and got sick. I went for 6 weeks without food. So I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. You don't have to do the experiment. If you want to, good luck to you. It didn't help, and there was that problem. Now, that's how that experiment failed. So, what's the point of me doing this talk? Well, I can save you a lot of trouble. And it's like everything I do. I do experiments that no one else has ever wanted to do. That's how I developed all these other methods. Other people give up. And say it's too difficult. Some people give up in 5 minutes, some people give up in a week, some people, even top researchers, give up after a while. But that's what I do. A lot of experiments. This one went wrong. And I got out of it as I'd planned to, if things went wrong. So the advantage of doing experiments, whether they succeed or fail, is you learn from them and you modify your approach to solving problems in the future. And as a result of all that experiment and all the others, I'm still around 29 years later. So bear that in mind, and I hope you find this information useful. And thank you for watching.